Good morning, Pookie
Hey,
Wookies. Good
hello.
morning. Um, Welcome back, or for the first time,
Mm-hmm.
to 101 Ratio Pod, the
Yep.
podcast where we talk about everything but movies.
Mm-hmm.
I am Yoav akiva.
I am Melina Nazarian.
And what are we talking about this fine morning
This fine morning or evening,
or
we are
evening?
talking about the 1993 movie directed by Robert Altman, Shortcuts.
Which is a crazy movie. So we're gonna try to get through all the previous segments. I've been watching the podcast like back, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to like do a better job in like introducing the segments because I feel like people will be like, what are they even like talking about if they're
That's
talking
true.
about short? So our first segment is called Movie News, and we talk about current news.
Yes.
And I picked a news thing for the week.
And I
But
also
I
have
want
only
Meli
one.
but I want Meli to start.
All right. So, the only thing I have this week, because there really wasn't anything interesting happening, um,
Mhm.
I just wanted to briefly bring up the fact that we have so far one, two, three, four, five, seven cast members for the new Knives Out movie.
Mhm.
Obviously, Daniel Craig is Benoit Blanc,
Right.
and
Right.
the following actors are Josh O'Connor. Wow.
I
Um,
didn't know Josh O'Connor was going to be in this.
yes, Josh O'Connor,
Oh,
Kaylee Spaney, Kerry
I love
Washington,
I love candies. Okay.
Andrew Scott,
Damn.
and then Glenn Close, which should be fun.
Oh, that's nice. Well, I love how, well, first of all, I love how Josh O'Connor and Andrew Scott are kind of making their way into the mainstream.
Mm-hmm.
That three, like Andrew Scott, Josh O'Connor, Paul Mescal.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if Mike Weiss is more in league with like Timothy Chalamet, that kind of
Yeah.
actor pop. But like specifically those three men are like in the same genre for me.
Mm-hmm.
And they're all making their way into the mainstream starting from indie and actually it shows that TikTok has an effect
Oh
on
yeah.
the industry. It's not
I mean,
just
it also helps
musicians.
that they're both phenomenal actors.
Yeah, yeah, obviously.
And
The three of
then
them.
the last two, which personally I'm not a huge fan of these actors, but whatever. Jeremy Renner,
Who is
he played Hawkeye.
Oh, okay,
He
he's
got into
okay.
that accident that
Didn't
like
he?
almost killed
Yeah,
him.
he got yeah.
So
And
not
then
a
and then he made a Hulu show about it.
yeah,
Or a Hulu special like a week.
not a huge fan of him, but whatever. What can you do? There's always going to be those actors that you're like, okay. And then last one, sorry, not third one, the last one, Mila Kunis,
I know that name, I don't know her face.
that 70s show.
Mm,
She's married to Ashton Kutcher.
Mila Kunis. Oh yeah, I know her.
I
I know her.
don't love her, and I don't think I don't know, her acting to me is not,
Hmm.
yeah.
They should have cast Evan Tube HD. Mila Kunis. I haven't seen her in anything, but I've seen her on like red carpets and stuff. I don't know. We'll see.
She's overrated in
I'm
my
kind of
opinion.
excited. I'm kind of excited. Like, it's not like I loved the second movie's
Yeah,
cast. Like, it wasn't only actors I loved, but you had the Edward Nordens, you had what's his name? Had a fantastic, like, especially really good, outstanding performance in
Dave
that was,
Bautista.
yeah, it was Batista. He was
Um,
really good.
Janelle Monáe was fantastic.
Janelle Monáe. They were all really good in the second one.
I will say, the movies are they're fun. They're fun,
Yeah.
and for the most part, they're pretty well written.
Hmm.
Um, I do hope that I saw this in a tweet, but I agree with this, that I hope that this third movie moves away from that rich person trope.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, which I think will be a lot cooler if it
Oh,
moves away from that.
interesting. I think the first movie's really good, really contained, really well done. Second
Yes.
movie, a little more big budget, a little more loose, a little more sweeping. The second movie does have that quality that I think won't age well and will be considered a kind of genre of its own later, in retrospective,
Hmm.
is when rich people make movies criticizing the 1% and all that. There's been
Like
countless video essays about it, countless
yeah,
criticisms,
Triangle of
such as
Sadness.
Triangle of Sadness, such as Glass Onion, a lot of other ones. I'm blanking, but there's been a lot. And it's like it's been a trend as of recent. So that's the second movie. But the third movie, it might be focusing on pirates, which I guess are kind
That
of in poverty in a way, because
which
they need money to
that should be interesting because I feel like we haven't gotten a lot from pirates recently. So new pirate media? I'm down.
I
I'm
was just
down.
I was watching this video of this video essayist that was, I think his name is Patrick Wilson. You should check him out. He was doing like a
Patrick
thing
Wilson, the
about,
actor.
no, they're not Patrick Wilson and someone else. He was doing a thing about what's the future of cinema since superheroes are dying. So he was like video game adaptation, toy adaptations, real, like possibly real original storytelling and all that. And he brought up pirate movies as like a throwaway joke, and I just
Hmm.
think that's funny because he was
Yeah,
actually like Pirates of the Caribbean, like that was a while ago, that was a big thing. Maybe we'll go back. I don't know. Is
we'll
it even a
see.
pirate film? We'll see.
We'll see.
What I wrote down is we got a David Lynch upload to Twitter. Me and
Mhm.
Meli are big David Lynch fans. If you didn't know, it's kind of like a lot, big part of our personality, sadly. Um, and he he posted to Twitter, we haven't been getting not movie news, weekend updates,
Weekend
not weekend
updates.
updates, not weekend
Yeah.
updates.
Weekly, daily
Weather
updates.
reports. We haven't been getting weather reports or the number kind of bingo that it used to play every day. But he's back. He's on Twitter and he said there's a big announcement for June 5th. Big announcement. So and he screamed it at us. So I guess it's important. I'm kidding. He's always shouting. But 2 more days, guys, till the David Lynch announcement. I
I
think it
hope
might be an album, a music album, because I saw his story.
we want a
He
movie.
tagged but then he tagged this actress in it who was in Twin Peaks: The Return. She's that redhead, very pretty woman. She's like, I think she works with Gordon. She's in the FBI with Gordon.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
He tagged her, and then it's like, she's not singing on the album, but there's like a Sacred Bones record, um,
Hmm.
photo to it, which is Sacred Bones is the record publisher that he works with often and is also a really good record company in general. They have really high quality stuff. So I think it's interesting. I've personally listened to David Lynch's music before. I think it's definitely out there. But obviously I listen to Angelo Badalamenti much more. Badalamenti, sorry.
I'm hoping that it'll be a movie announcement, but I don't think so.
Or at least a short or something.
Yeah.
Well, we've been getting kind of a lot of hope about the Twin Peaks season 4 bullshit, but
I don't want a Twin Peaks season 4.
no, I don't want it either. However, what else have been did? Well, David Lynch has 2 projects that he hasn't announced officially that have been turned down. Maybe this is one of them. Maybe he
Maybe.
found
Maybe he
a
found
company
a
for it.
yeah. I hope so. We'll see.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, what? And then our second
Our
segment,
segment set, yeah.
fellas, our second segment, fellas, since we don't have a lot of news this week, is talking about what we watched this week, which
Hmm.
we also didn't watch a lot this week. My sad surprise.
Well, to be
Um,
fair, I graduated high school, so
she graduated high school, which deserves a round of applause.
thank you, thank you.
Do you feel like a graduate?
I do. I do feel like a graduate.
The Graduate.
Mm-hmm. I am Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman. Excellent movie. We've talked about it.
Go check out
Um,
that episode.
go check out that episode, even though everyone in the world and their
No,
mother have.
you mean everyone in Dubai and India have.
Right, right. Hey guys. Um,
But I didn't, so technically this segment comes along and we share what we watch. I did not watch anything this week, but Yoav watched something, so go ahead and share.
well, I started watching Naked Lunch by David Cronenberg,
Oh,
but I'll talk about it next week. I'll keep my
okay, okay.
sorry for sorry for edging. Um, I watched How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Pretty cute movie. I don't know. I like you would expect me to hate it, right? Because I'm a pretentious like loser and all that. But it was actually pretty fun.
Yeah.
And I think Matthew
Oh my God,
McConaughey
he was
looks great in
so
it, but
gorgeous.
um I think 2000s is like probably peak. I don't know. There was something really, I kind of miss rom-coms like this. Like, why don't we get shit like this anymore? I would go to theaters to watch this. The secondhand embarrassment I got, like, I was involved in the story as well for no reason. Like, I was actually in it. So I'm like happy about that. That was How to Lose a
Well,
Guy
that's
in
how
10
a
Days.
rom-com should
Really,
make you feel. You want to feel
yeah.
like so invested in
Yeah,
their
like
story
it's
that
very cliched, but I was invested. I don't know, because it was also the writing was pretty spunky. I mean, the editing was awful, but it wasn't shot too badly. It wasn't, it
Mhm.
had its 2000 like campy aspects, I guess. So I thought it was cool. I thought it
Yeah,
was cool. Yeah.
nice.
3.5 for that one, which was so high compared to what I thought I'd be
That is
giving
pretty
it.
high.
And then I watched Shortcuts, which we're about to get into. Shall we? Shall we? Shall we?
Let's get into it. Let's
All
put
right.
on these backgrounds, shall we?
No transition today since we finished so early.
Oh, oh my God. Guys, that was
What?
inappropriate. Sorry.
I didn't see. Fuck.
That was not
I guess
supposed to
I'll have
pop
to.
up.
What popped up?
Well, you'll have to watch the episode and see for yourself, won't you?
Oh my God. Classic. 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 Oh,
Oh, whoa, guys, look at that.
how do I? Um.
There we go.
Okay.
Welcome
Shortcuts.
to
Robert.
Shortcuts.
Oh, okay. Well, is this the longest movie we've done on the podcast so
No,
far?
I think Barry Lyndon was longer.
Is Barry Lyndon longer?
Let me check.
So this might be the longest. It is 3 hours, 8 minutes long.
Oh
Meaning
no, you're
it's
right,
it's
because Barry Lyndon is 3 hours and 4 minutes.
yeah. Meaning this isn't really a shortcut,
No.
is it? Let me
No.
let me send myself my notes to the computer and then
Okay.
um
Well, while you're
maybe
sending
start
yourself,
okay.
um, this movie, I think for the first thing I want to mention before we even jump into it is the fact that, as Yoav was saying before we started rolling, it's a very dense movie, and there are so many different ways to interpret it and to really go about it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Because it covers so many different topics, um,
Right.
all covered in such beautiful ways, by the way.
Hmm.
And I think right off the get-go, I just want to say how I love how, despite the flaws of the people in the movie, I love how it really just shows that in the end, like, everyone's human, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, this
Yeah.
this is one of the a very human movie that I've seen. Like, one of the most human movies I've watched recently, because
Well, I've
it's not
sorry.
it's not sugarcoating all the bad stuff, because humans are flawed and humans are fucked up and we all do shitty things, and I like how this movie doesn't sugarcoat that. And it kind of shows the everyday like life of that and living with that, which is cool. You don't see that often. I like that.
No, you don't. And on the one hand, well, okay, a few like words I've seen on Letterboxd used to describe this. Um, unsentimental humanism. Did you encounter that review?
What does that even mean?
No, it's because
Onset.
it's this is kind of a soap opera in a way, but it's not because it's very unsentimental. It's not trying to get you too emotional over
Yeah, it's
what's
not.
going on to a certain extent, and it's also taking kind of like a back seat and looking at this. So the second thing I wrote is realistic satire, because
Yeah,
on the one
yeah.
hand, I think this movie is incredibly critical of Los Angeles and the human race in general. But on the other hand, like you said, like we kind of, I kind of, at least I did really care for these like middle class kind of antics and what's going on in their lives and like,
It's not that I
you know what I
cared
mean?
for it. It's more
Yeah.
just it was cool seeing it represented in film because we don't usually get those perspectives of
Yeah,
like I don't know, like you get a lot of crime, you get a lot of murder. Not that there wasn't like
for
murder in
sure.
this, but like, well,
There's definitely
there is, but like it's just more of that everyday human
yeah,
perspective, which was
which I
cool because
love.
yeah.
Which Altman is a giant perpetuator of like this is kind of what Altman's cinema is like, really. I mean, one of the most famous things people talk about when they talk about Robert Altman is basically his sound, like the sound he
Hmm.
uses and specifically the overlapping dialogue. And when stuff like Macabre and Mrs. Miller came out, people used that as like a way to jab at him and saying, wow, his like dialogue is so hard to listen to because you do lose a word or two once in a while because you're going to be hearing two conversations at once. But I think it's actually genius because basically, I think there's a attentiveness that Altman has to the characters in the world where um every dialogue and every conversation and every story and every character is important. And it's the
Hmm.
kind of sound mixing where you could just close your eyes and get a thorough sense of the scene and the area and the aura and the environment and like the story, the individual story that each scene is telling. And I think he's so interested in telling all these stories and you can really tell also by the structure and the screenplay of this thing, which is an absolute beast of a screenplay. How do you like? How were you navigating this like web of characters? Because it's a little hard to like keep track of in the beginning. At
Yeah,
least I
so
felt about it.
so um yeah, in the beginning you're definitely like, oh, like what's going on, or like,
Yeah,
or is it going to be like individual stories that like we are going to go back and forth to?
yeah,
But then as you keep watching, you realize like, oh, this person is their pool cleaner. This person
yeah,
played the cello at the concert. This is the kid's
yeah.
doctor. The waitress hit the child. Like it's all like, oh, and then like the that
It's
one
all
woman was the
connected.
waitress's daughter. Like it's all can, and then you start to realize like, oh, this person's having an affair with this person and this person has having relations with
Yeah,
this person. And it's so cool to kind of like see
it's
like
so fun.
and connect it, and you're like, oh my God, oh my
Yeah,
God. So that was, I was
that
having a lot
adds
of fun.
in a way that also adds to like the enjoyment aspect of this movie because I think
Yeah.
it is on the one hand a movie that is very art house. It's very plotless. It's very
Hmm.
like complicated themes and characters that are incredibly complicated.
Yeah.
Um I think something that because I watched the Siskel and Ebert review, something that Siskel said is that like these characters just like what's her name? Lois or Jennifer Jason Lee. Her character, she has this like phone sex thing going on, but she also has this incredibly complicated with her relationship with her husband. That's
Yes.
like already two facets of her character. And she's not in the movie much, is she? But like even like partial characters are characters that are very well developed. I thought we could go through this cast a little and just touch on each
Oh my,
guy,
okay.
each gal.
Oh my God. Yeah, because I also wrote
Okay.
that down. What?
So look at okay. The first that's I'm just gonna go from Google because I could see the photos this way. Julianne Moore
Oh my God.
was my favorite person to watch in this
Oh
movie.
my God.
And it's not just because I think she's like one of the most beautiful people I've ever seen. Um, like 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 just an amazing looking person, but also her character was so cool. I loved her art was like I would purchase that art. Like it was actually pretty well it was kind of pretentious art, but for the point of being pretentious, like thematically, but I thought it was
Yeah.
also really cool. Their apartment was so
Oh
cool.
my
Like you could
God.
definitely tell she was the one that like had control over furniture and stuff. She's so free flowing and she has this kind of vibe to her that was so fun to watch. And her
Mhm.
character and obviously the famous dialogue near the end of the movie is a big point for her to show her acting. She was great. What do you think of
Yeah.
Julianne Moore?
Yeah.
She ate.
She
I
did
loved
eat.
it. Robert Downey.
Bro.
Thoughts?
Well, first of
Why was
all,
he kind of
I mean a little bit, because he was not unattractive.
right?
I
When he
his
was wearing those shorts later, like at the end,
Yeah,
I was
that
like, that didn't really do it. But earlier,
his character was so to me to me his character is the pinnacle of a man, if that makes sense. Because like flirting with other women while you're married, but
Mhm.
not ever acting on it. Calling your guy best friend and explaining in very explicit detail
Right.
what you want to do to another woman, yet again, never actually going and like doing any of that. Um, it to me is just like,
Well, he would definitely go through with cheating, wouldn't he?
yeah,
Because at the end, he had definitely in it. He also, there was this off thing about him roofing this
yes,
girl. I don't know if you heard that. That
I
was
did.
weird. I didn't like that at all.
But I feel like compared to some of the other men in the story who like we know for a fact are
Yeah,
cheating, or like he's the one that
yeah.
we're not 100%
He's
sure
also
if
he's
he's
also
actually
really
going through
sweet
with it.
to his wife. I like the
Well,
relationship as well.
that's why I believe that he is the representation of like just
I get it.
a man,
Yeah.
because
I
that's
think
kind of how a lot of men are.
yeah. I think him and like Chris Penn as well. Jerry, who's his friend, are like very and Tom Waite. Well, okay, let's get to it. Jack Lemmon plays. I'm just looking. I think this is like the order of who was paid the most, probably. Jack Lemmon, who's a famous actor from the old movies, from Some
Hmm.
Like It Hot and The Apartment and stuff like that.
There's
He's
no
in
way
this, and he
Robert
plays.
Downey Jr. was paid that much for this movie. He was not.
I don't know. He was famous because of his dad.
There's no way he got paid more than Andy McDowell.
I don't know. Jack Lemmon plays Howard's dad. He had a really interesting monologue. Um,
Hmm.
during when he was talking about cheating on his wife, which I thought was really interesting and incredibly well acted. Like even the side character, this like in irrelevant father character is a big thing of it. No,
Hmm.
I thought his performance was a very late career performance, which was cool.
Yeah.
Tim Robbins, what do you think of Tim Robbins as Gene?
Wait, am I thinking of him as the right person?
He's the asshole cop
Yes,
husband.
yes, yes. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, okay. So just to be clear, he was the one who was having an affair with Frances McDormand's
Francis
character. Okay.
McDormand. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
He was so gross.
he was so gross, and like from the get-go, you're like, this guy's a dick, because he's like, leave the
Yeah.
dog outside, and he's like standing in like that chemical spray, and
Yeah.
he's rude to his wife. He basically neglects his kids for most of the movie. Even though his wife is such a cutie pie and she was so gorgeous. Um,
Yeah, she was really
and
gorgeous.
then he's like weird to what's her name? Betty, who was Frances McDormand's character. Even though
Yeah,
they weren't like even officially together, but he was still being like weirdly like territorial over her, and he like throws the
which is
dog
also a
out.
very manly,
Yeah.
kind of stereotypically awful manly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And then he starts
I
to like
think.
become better at the end, and he like brings the dog back, and but then he starts to become better. Why? Because his wife had sex with him.
Yeah. Does he get that? I don't know. I think it's an
I mean,
interesting
not
point Altman is making about, well, no, didn't really get better.
not
But
better, but
like
you know what I mean. Like when I
it's
say
an
that.
it's I feel like it's a point Altman is making where it's like behind all this middle class, kind of they're in like the richest area in the world, and like yeah, obviously there's this dark underbelly, but there's also a multi different different behaviors of men that at the end of the day we're all assholes in a way.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yep.
how I felt watching this. So he's critical of everyone in this movie, but specifically the male race. Um, I like that line where he was talking about he was making an excuse about like handling cracked out kids, and she's like,
Mm-hmm.
"Whose crack are we talking about, Gene?"
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
thought that was fun.
yeah.
He's in general, he's a real asshole that acts like
Mm-hmm.
he has some kind of secretive, high profile police job when he's actually just a fucking traffic cop who pulls over clown
Dude,
cars for going too slow and like,
during the earthquake when he started yelling over the megaphone,
yeah,
I was like,
that was a big deal. That was thematically interesting.
who do you think you are, buddy? No one can hear
No
you,
one,
okay? Literally no one
that
can hear
was
you. Put the
that was
megaphone
so
away
goofy.
and protect
That
your
was so goofy.
kids.
In general, that was really goofy, and this movie is really funny. Like I had some genuine laugh out loud moments
Oh
here,
yeah.
and obviously the comedy is very slight. There's no like punchlines or anything, but
Yeah.
it's just different behavioral things, and I think that's really cool. I love that kind of comedy. It was
I
kind of
was
awkward. It was kind of
I was laughing
yeah,
a lot when he was taking the dog back. That was, I don't know, I
yeah.
just found that scene very
Oh yeah,
funny.
the with the ginger kid. I wrote a
Yeah.
note about that. He was like, "No, don't take away
I think he named the dog like Frisbee. He was like,
him."
no,
Frisbee
Frisbee.
was special.
Yeah.
It was so fucking funny. You have the gorgeous Andy McDowell who plays
Oh.
the news reporter's wife, who's beautiful in this and really great. Obviously, she's from Groundhog Day. Don't tell us
Hmm.
that we watched a movie
Yeah.
with her. Um, because it'll set him off. You have Matthew Modine, who's from Full Metal Jacket, which is such a coincidence because we did Full Metal Jacket, yeah,
I
the other week.
I just want to say that this man is so, so fine. He is so beautiful. Um,
He was great in this movie and in Full Metal. Like the difference between his characters was crazy here.
he was he was making me cackle in this movie too, especially towards the
He,
end.
especially in that dialogue where he catches her cheating, and she's like, "We're talking, we're talking, we're just talking."
He
He was goofy.
his character was interesting because like to me like he is the um avatar, let's just say, the representation of the type of man that on the surface you would think, oh, like he's fine, like he's not cheating, he's
Yeah,
not, being weird. But then
yeah.
when we get to that dialogue, you start to realize like, oh, like he kind of has a complex. Like
Hmm.
he's the type of
Like all
man that,
men.
yeah, that he thinks he's just better than everyone else, or he thinks he's
Yeah,
better than his wife because what he's bringing up this conversation that he decides to bring up 5 minutes before they're gonna have guests over, and like he thinks now is the good time to have this conversation. He thinks he's better than his wife because he's the one to bring it up and
yeah,
not her. Like he's flawed too. You know what I mean? Like
yeah,
you don't have to
for
be a
sure,
cheater to be flawed. And I think that's a
for sure.
really interesting, like, I guess, thing about his character.
I think his dynamic with his wife is also super interesting, that
Hmm.
doctor artist dynamic, because doctors are very practical, very
Yeah.
scientific. Artists are the opposite. Hence, he doesn't really understand her art and her taste. And
Hmm.
that's why their apartment is so eclectic, because I think the production design was amazing
Yeah.
when it comes to their apartment. And why I loved it so much, because you could really tell there was a clash between practicality and, like, you get something like a telephone next to the couch, a very practical choice. However, it's like red and like it's like really bright red, you know what I mean? I think it's interesting.
And
And he
y-
doesn't really understand her art. He's like, why
mhm.
do they have to be nude? Does it have to be nude to be art? Which I think is a real meta line
Mm,
because it ties into the amount of nudity that's in this movie.
yeah. A
Um,
lot more than I thought there was gonna be.
he loves nudity.
Yeah, okay.
He loves Robert Altman loves nudity.
I wasn't
Um,
I was not expecting full frontal.
Me neither. But
That
he
was
does have it
crazy.
now that I looking back, there is full frontal nudity in most of his films
Okay, well, this
that
is my
I've
first
seen.
Robert Altman, so
I think it's interesting because um he would show like the naked body, or like he would show like the naked woman in the pool
yeah.
that what's his name, Jerry is watching,
Yes.
and then like 5 minutes later he I feel like he felt the need to like balance it out with some male nudity, so he had someone pull out his penis in front. I just love that. I just love the like balance,
He
the
was like, I'm
and
just
just
gonna do
like
both.
the way he like treats men in this is also like on the one hand you have a lot of female nudity, which is, I mean, yeah, which you get in a lot of his movies as well as well as male nudity, but
He
there's a
said, I'm
lot of
gonna
female
balance it
nudity.
out by making the men all shitty
Yeah, but I
and
think it's
all
interesting
awful.
the way he's in like watching the males and the females and their interactions. Obviously is the big point of this, but like it seems like he's very at awe at like, because he's more even more interested at the women characters because he thinks they're even more deep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I just feel like I just think that's cool. I really like Altman for that. Especially with stuff like Macabre and Mrs. Miller. I think he's a real like there's like prostitutes in that movie because it's a whole movie about a pimp house or a
Hmm.
prostitute, a whorehouse. But and you would expect them not to be interesting or like because they're not, because they're side characters technically.
Right.
They each have their own personalities, they each have their own stories. He's so interested in telling their stories. So I love that kind of, yeah. I mean, we talked about Jennifer Jason Leigh. She's really great in this. Her whole like phone sex
Oh my
thing
God.
always got me laughing as well.
Crazy.
Um, and the way she could turn that on and off, and like how she was dealing with the stuff with her babies I thought that was a
Changing the
really cool
diapers.
device. Yeah.
And then on the other
Um,
end, you have her husband,
mhm.
which I'm curious as to
Who's
what you thought about him.
I think he's a really interesting character because on the one hand, I feel like he's very frustrated with his life
Yes.
and with his marriage also. With He feels like she's not giving him enough attention
Hmm.
or whatever, especially with her sex work and all that. Um,
Yeah.
and I think it's interesting, and that frustration definitely comes into play in this genius ending sequence where he
Hmm.
ends up killing a woman. Um, and I think he's a really interesting character for that.
Yeah.
What did you think of his character?
Okay. Well, first I just want to like, oh, sorry. Okay. First I want to kind of highlight like, because to me the most interesting part with specifically with his character was whenever after his wife had like gotten off the bone and like she was like okay like I'm exhausted, and you can tell that he like really wanted to like kind of talk to her and be like, yo, like why don't you treat me like that, or like he kind of briefly mentioned it but he didn't go like too deep into like how he was feeling. But he brought up, he was like, well, why don't you ever like do that to me, and she was kind of like, oh well, that's just like work stuff. And then to me like she said a very specific thing. She said that was just talk or something.
Yeah.
um and then in that moment I kind of realized like, okay, like he's definitely probably really insecure because of all that. And like the
Yeah.
fact that she's talking to other men like that and not to him definitely makes him deeply insecure. And I feel like that probably led him to bashing the girl's head in.
Yeah.
Um, I think he was, as you were saying, so like he had all this pent up
Frustration.
frustration that
Yeah.
he ended up kind of taking it out on that girl by bashing her
Yeah.
brains in. And I'm sure it was almost like because she also kind of looked like her too. She had like the same
Mm-hmm.
length haircut, similar looking hair, both like kind of smaller. So
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a way for him to take
I
out
think
his anger on his wife.
his murdering that girl at the end is kind of also part of the big statement Altman
Hmm.
is making. Like apart from the whole like story wise, I think it's part of it kind of felt more symbolic than the whole earthquake sequence felt more
Yeah.
symbolic than character driven, but it is character driven. If we were to analyze why he murdered her, I think it's because of, well, one, his
Well,
whole complex,
what
like
do
you
you
said earlier,
think?
but also
What do you think it's symbolic for him killing the girl?
I think it's another example of the darkness that lies and the deep frustration and the deep sadness that lies under all these people's lives. And you can really you really notice this throughout the film. That all the like high middle class antics in Los Angeles are counterbalanced with like various darknesses. So you have like a dead body in the river, or a woman pretending to be dead in a pool, or a child being ran over, or a woman hurting herself with a glass in a sink, or the melancholy that you have in this scene as she's watching the fish in the tank,
Mm-hmm.
or a man being shot on the freeway for no reason. There's definitely a sadness and a darkness and an underbelly to Los Angeles that Altman is trying to that we can't just ignore. And I think that's part of what Altman is saying is he's trying to capture the city and the area around it. Obviously, they're not directly in the city at that point. And these characters is that there's definitely a darkness that they're all ignorant of, but that lives within them because of the kind of vanity of their life and the kind of vainness of their life. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's how I saw it. There's like a burst of like that anger and that frustration and the sexual perversion and the
Mm-hmm.
cheating and the whatever. Um, so it was a big, yeah. But I wrote more about that at the end. Tom Waits is just I love Tom Waits. I'm a big Tom Waits fan because I love his music. He's Earl, the guy with the really, you know what I'm talking
Yeah,
about.
yeah, I know.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
he's famous for his really low, like crusty voice.
Yeah.
And he's like he has a really underrated musical actually that's based on German folklore called The Black Rider, and it's incredibly dark. I recommend you check it out.
Hmm.
But he wrote this musical, he's great. Um Obviously he's just a great musical artist and he always plays similar kind of characters, but this was great as he was great as Earl, who's kind of this asshole who's also he was really creepy to his daughter later in the bar.
Yeah.
I didn't like that at all either. But he's kind of this asshole drunk kind of guy. But his character was interesting. I don't know. Complicated
I just
again.
thought it was so funny to me because like he was
He had
like
some funny moments, yeah.
leaving and coming back, leaving and coming back, and then he was like, "This is the last time. I'm not gonna leave. Like I love you." Like, um,
Yeah.
like all this saying all this fake shit that doesn't mean
Yeah.
anything. Um, and his wife just having to go through that like once a
Yeah.
week. Like it was so sad whenever he ordered the tuna melt and she was like, "Oh, like she turned around to give it to him and he was gone
And
and
then he
she was
left.
mm-hmm. And she was all
That the
like,
look on her face was really sad.
ugh, which I mean Lily Tomlin, come on, man. She's just
She's great. Isn't she from that? She's from 9 to 5, right?
yeah. And I think she's also
Yeah.
an 80 for Brady.
She is for in 80s. I love how that's what we know her for.
I'm
Um
just joshing.
I I wanted to briefly touch on the three fishermen because in the beginning I didn't think they'd be like
Me
a big
neither.
part of the movie, but then
Me
they are,
neither.
and like Vern as a character and
Yeah.
is like for some reason really relevant. Um,
Mm-hmm.
they were disgusting for the
Yep.
most part. They had some moments. I mean, obviously you had Buck Henry, who was just hilarious in this.
Mm-hmm.
He played one of the fishermen in Gordon, and I'm just getting to love Buck Henry as a. I mean, obviously he wrote The Graduate, and we talked about him a lot in The Graduate, and he's also a big part of Taking Off, which is one
Yeah.
of my favorite movies ever. But I want to get to seeing this guy's director filmography and his acting, and he's always just such a standout. He's always just so funny to me. So Buck Henry was as one of the fishermen. Obviously, this whole like dramatic thing, which is shot like the scene is kind of shot like a play in a way of them
Mm-hmm.
camping. It's like kind of this long shot, and they're all like walking around having conversations, and the whole thing with the dead body, it was very like a story condensed within itself, with this whole arc of like what are they gonna do, how are they gonna react, and they end up ignoring it for 4 days, letting this woman's body like kind of disintegrate and get all gross in the water, and kind of ignoring the darkness that they're fishing over. So again, it's kind of an example. What do you think of that whole? It's weird. It's disgusting, really.
In yeah, so
Bad
like
behavior.
in context of like if you think about it like big picture wise, like
Yeah,
just in comparison to the other scenes, it definitely like stands out as like the odd one out, you know?
for sure.
Um it's weird, like you don't expect it at all because like going into it, I was not expecting anyone to get like or there to be murder like that.
Yeah,
Um
there's three, four deaths in this movie.
yes,
Around
there's
five. Yeah,
four, right?
yeah,
The
something like that.
cellist, the son, this one, and then the head
Yeah,
bashing.
yeah.
But
And that's what happened on screen, which is like I didn't expect that for this movie either.
yeah.
I didn't expect to see how dark this would go. I thought it would
Mm-hmm.
be way less dark than what it is.
But it's very interesting because like for as dark as the movie is, like content wise,
It's so
it's
fun and
it's
it's so
so
funny and
fun.
it's
Like
so
it's
yeah,
like if you're not really paying attention, then you wouldn't even
yeah,
realize it was like this dark of a
yeah.
movie.
Which is thematically works because this
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing of Los Angeles and its underbelly, and how this whole city is built on evils. And I think David Lynch, actually, we spoke about him
Yes.
earlier, but he really explores this in stuff like Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, or whatever the kind of Mulholland Drive, which I haven't seen, is about Los Angeles. And he does talk about Altman a lot in his interviews because it actually is relevant and a big influence for him. And this
Yeah,
whole
that makes a lot
underbelly
of
versus
sense.
what we see on the surface makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Yeah. But that whole
They
scene
got
was like
Alex.
crazy.
Yeah. That scene was really well done as well, like acting wise, they were all great. And then one of the main fisherman, Stewart, who goes to the dinner later, um, he has this really nice, kind wife, and I was like, you deserve better, dude.
Hmm.
He actually acted like an asshole when it comes to this, um,
Yeah.
to that body. You got Lily Taylor, who actually looks a lot like fucking Lily Tomlin, which I was like, the casting is so great because she's Doreen's daughter, Honey.
Yeah.
And I thought that was so cool because like it actually like the casting is actually so good. Like the daughter, the father, daughter,
Hmm.
mother, daughter, mother's everyone looks
It
similar, like where
it
they have to look
works.
similar. It works super, super well. Which I thought was so cool because the casting is actually like the acting in general. Obviously, we've been talking about it,
Bless
but
you.
it's actually brilliant. The way Robert Altman worked with actors is so special. I mean, I've seen interviews and he's so interesting. He's famous for his working with actors to get these like
Yeah.
naturalistic performances that are amazing. Um, but it's not conventional at all. Who else is in this? It's such a stacked
Frances
fucking
McDormand.
cast. Frances McDormand, who's also really beautiful. Young Frances McDormand. Um, she was an interesting character. That whole thing with her husband,
Oh
like
my
revenging on
God.
her and ruining her new house. I thought that was so interesting.
But like, weren't they
Um,
separated?
yeah, they were, but it's kind of, I don't know. I
Which
have
was
no idea.
so funny to me because I'm like,
Yeah,
y'all are not even together anymore, and you're still treating
yeah.
her like this?
That those scenes where he wrecks the house is just
Dude.
so interesting and fun to watch as well,
Mm-hmm.
but interesting. Um, again, this like for some reason this male complex that they have that we have kind of um I guess power over the woman's domain and we could do what we want with it in a way, which is what's being explored there, I think, and wreck where we want and not and just leave and like be mad and not communicative and like but they can't be mad and uncommunicative. You
What?
know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. And what was so, I guess, gross to me about that whole thing, because now that I think about it, kids also play a really big part in this, like as a whole. And most
Yeah.
of the couples all have kids, and you see the different relationships between parent and child, whether they're younger or older, because we see the cellist and her mother, the jazz singer, and then like we see
Oh, that was an interesting relationship too.
yeah, but specifically with this one, with the pilot and his son, um he didn't even make an attempt to try and be a father, you know?
Yeah.
Like, regardless of whatever the mother and the father's relationship is, they clearly hate each other, and he has this weird, like, possessive, like,
Yeah.
ugh, over her, whatever.
Hmm.
He doesn't even try to be a father to the
Their
son.
son Chad.
Yeah, which I felt so bad for him. But it's like, how can
Chad.
you be acting like that towards the mother and then not even stand up and be a father and take out your
This is
son?
why this is why Chads
Oh,
end up the way they are.
yeah.
You know what I mean? This is why everyone named Chad has a childhood like that. um, but yeah, the whole parent kin relationship is really really big here.
Which I want to connect back to what you were saying about living in LA and
Yeah,
growing up and being a child and parenting in a city like LA, because
yeah,
it really affects you and the way you make decisions and everything. And
hmm,
and I'm gonna connect this to real life and people I know of that live in LA and who've grown up in LA, and compared to like where I grew up and how like my friends and I were raised, and it's so different. And I really like notice that the people that grow up from a baby to 18 years old um in LA are so different from other kids around the world. And I
for
and
sure.
and it's because of where they live. It's because that they live in Los
Yeah,
Angeles. That's why. And their behavior and their like reactions to things, and obviously like parents add to that. But I
yeah.
think growing up in the city of Los Angeles has a huge, huge, huge effect on kids.
How do you get to the point where you end up raising your children in Los Angeles? You're probably in some kind of art field. You're probably in the movie. You're probably doing special effects or being a jazz singer in a club or being an artist, that kind of thing. Los Angeles is a fucked up city, and obviously Hollywood's impact is giant on the area. And this whole thing about external and internal and the makeup we put on,
Hmm.
and how we present ourselves versus what's inside is and there's this giant dissonance specifically in Los Angeles
Yeah.
that I think Altman was trying to touch on. I mentioned Cisco and Ebert, but Cisco was also he said that it's kind of he loved the film. He said it was like a beautifully written 3 hour soap opera that's multifaceted and all that. That touches on Los Angeles and America as a whole. But he said that because Robert Altman has a movie called The Player, which is satire about the Hollywood movie industry. And so this is like that was his biting satire about the movies. This is his satire about the middle class that goes to see the movies and like the impact of the Hollywood system and Hollywood in general and the movie industry on the lives of these people who kind of act like their own have character they kind of act like characters, put up a facade in a way themselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I just think I think an interesting thing to talk about with this movie is the musical score and like the presence of art and music in general. What were you thinking about the musical score? Because I personally loved it. I thought it was brilliant. Like the jazz and the how it went in and out between scenes and how it helped like the pacing and the editing. I thought it was so cool. Fucking loved it.
Okay.
Release it on Spotify, please. Apple Music,
Um,
please.
I'm gonna be so honest with you. The only
You
time I
didn't
was
notice.
no, the only time I ever really noticed the music was when she was playing the cello or when we were
Oh, well, yeah.
in the
That's
jazz
obvious.
club itself and she was
Ah,
singing.
but there's a lot of jazz. The whole musical score was really jazzy, very 90s. Very, I loved it. But yeah, the cello scenes are like she played the cello really well. Cello is a really emotional kind of instrument. I love cello.
I love cello as
It's
well.
cool.
I wish
I
I played
think
the
I,
cello.
I think that character is really interesting in general because she kind of has this stereotypical like artist singer mother kind of thing, and that is
Hmm.
kind of part of why she kills herself later. Um, by the way, that scene where she kills herself, there's the shot of like the smoke coming out from
Oh my
that
God.
was haunting, but also
Yep.
that's a really beautiful fucking shot. I'm
Yep.
not gonna lie to you.
No, I was
Really
thinking the
beautiful
same
shot.
exact thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Very sad.
Um, her mother has some interesting lines. She says, like, I hate LA. All people do here is snort coke and talk, but you're literally that type. Like, what are you talking about? Like
Hmm.
this is so hypocritical, so
Which
hypocritical.
which is again, it ties back to being in LA and how people in LA think they're
Yeah,
better than everybody else, even though they're just the same. They're all the
yeah,
same.
yeah.
And that's what I hate about LA and the people I know there because they're all fucking same, but they think they're better than everyone else. I'm like, shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up. You're the same.
This is
Sorry.
like when Meli and I visited LA together.
Yeah, that did happen.
That did happen.
That happened. You guys won't believe it, but it happened. Then we got ice cream,
Yeah.
and it was
Did we get
crazy.
ice cream?
Yeah,
When
remember
did
we
we
got those
get?
big sundaes at the boardwalk, not the boardwalk, but like the beach.
Did we get ice cream? I'm
Yeah,
blanking.
we got ice cream at Venice Beach,
I remember going to. Oh yeah.
and it was like
Oh
really,
yeah. Oh
yeah,
yeah. Oh yeah. 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 At night, and then there was that group of like kids.
yeah,
Yeah, that was funny. That
yeah.
was really. That was good, wasn't it?
Hmm.
You like that? More stylistic things I like about this movie. Opening credits. Robert
Oh,
Altman never misses with the opening credits. He
no, those
always
are
uses
so
like
good.
I loved like floating. I was having so much fun like floating through LA with these names like bobbing in and out with the helicopters and the it was just cool. I like that.
Hmm.
Um Other just random shit I wrote. They really got Alex Trebek to like be in this and his presence. He's like part of the movie, but he's
Yeah,
only in one scene. I
they
just think
mentioned him
that's
a
so cool.
lot.
Yeah, because Julianne Moore's character is like obsessed with him in a way, and it's funny
Hmm.
because she takes out the Jeopardy later in their
Yeah.
dinner scene, which is like showing how her argument with her husband is like getting in the way, and her own like private obsession is getting into like weaving its way into this dinner. Like when they're
Hmm.
playing Jeopardy, when he's like, "I thought you were the cheater," you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I thought was great. By the way, I heard about that argument scene before the movie.
Hmm.
I I, I don't know when this movie was mentioned to me or something, but like the whole like scene where she doesn't have pants on and she's like they're having this big argument is like kind of like well known about the movie.
Hmm.
And I just thought it was a really well acted scene, like in general. It's great. And
I no go.
Well, that dinner was built up to so
Yeah.
much.
literally from
before
their
that.
first scene on
Yeah,
screen.
yeah.
Um, two things. One, um, if they're looking for a third, I'm happy to join. Um, I'm
Just
down.
graduated high school.
Give me a call, you know. But the second thing I wanted to say was that I really, this goes back to what you said like a while ago in the kind of the beginning part of this segment,
Yeah,
was I love the way this was cut because they
the
leave
editing is
each
amazing.
segment just long enough for it to get your attention, but not too long to make you
Yeah,
bored, and not too
yeah,
long to not even make you bored, but make you too invested. They
yeah,
cut off just at that point before you start to really feel like, oh my
yeah,
God, oh my God, oh my God. And they cut to another story. So it's almost as if you forget about that one and you move on to the
yeah.
next one. And it's so genius. It's so fucking smart to make you
It's
not become
amazing.
attached to these characters and to kind of make you feel disconnected from them.
Yeah.
It's so brilliant. I love it. I love it.
The editing is fucking fantastic. I mean, this editor had the job of piecing together this 3 hour long like behemoth of a movie. Like there's probably tons of like the footage was probably way more than what ended up in the
Oh,
final cut.
it
Like
was probably
I'm
like
sure
15
there is
hours
so
long.
much more. And the writing is so like I'm pretty sure this is mostly like there's not too much improv because Robert Altman was very specific. Even though his movies seem to be very loose,
Mhm.
they're very,
You
very
said you
written.
said Nashville was all improvised.
Yeah, Nashville was all improvised,
Okay.
but this is different. This is all written and it's based on like
Yes.
short stories by Raymond
Yes.
Carver, which I haven't read, but I think it's interesting weaving together all these short stories into one was a very
Hmm.
this is definitely more of an Altman movie than a Raymond Carver movie is what I mean. Like it's more it has his stamp a little bit more on than the story it's based on because he's like
Well,
evolving these stories.
if you
You know what I
didn't
mean?
even know that it was based off of his short stories, you would think it's an
Yeah,
original.
yeah.
So,
It's amazing. Altman also has, I mean, the editing here is much quicker, I guess, than you would find. His movies are always like this, though, where they like cut away at certain moments.
hmm
Um, I just fucking love Robert. I just realized I just fucking love Robert Altman. Like
hmm
last few months, dude, his movies are like stick with you too. Like he is just so great. And I love his vibe. I mean, it's different than Macabre and Mrs. Miller, The Long Goodbye, in that it's more realized, less hazy. And the editing is a little quicker. It's a little more fast paced in a way.
Yeah,
But it's also because he had these stories to work on and he couldn't go full like experimental Altman in a
right.
way. But this was his passion project, and you could really see his stamp on it. You got this famous Altman zooms. He uses the zoom lenses a
hmm
lot to like zoom in and out and stuff, and that
The
constantly
pool, the
there's like
pool
this
one was
push and
cool.
pull. Yeah, the push and pull.
And then all
Oh,
the
the pull. Yeah.
no, like we got
I was gonna say the
multiple of
push
those
and
in the pool,
pull.
push and pool. Yeah.
Yeah, but you constantly have this movement. Yeah, you got multiple of those. It's amazing. Um, and just the way the screenplay is made, like where I feel like it covers different topics. Like you have all these like everyone's in the beginning. You have this sequence with the helicopters going over the whole ensemble of characters, and you see them all deal with this situation. And then there's like later, there's this point where like we're watching a bunch of sex scenes in succession, and like it's like now the movie's talking about sex, now the movie's talking about like cheating,
Yeah.
now the movie's talking. I feel like there's like constant like kind of segments that you could take out of these where
hmm
it's like it's not like individual stories because the individual stories are all together, but they kind of become this one like I don't know how to describe it. One like entity that's like movement. Like the short stories are like the way I would separate these stories is not by character but by themes because I feel
hmm
like it goes theme by theme and the editing is so genius and like the transitions and like you see a cup of milk here and now you see a cup of milk in the
Yeah.
other scene. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like the
yeah, yeah,
props
yeah,
that are
yeah.
used and it's so like tapered and it's such a tapestry and it's amazing. It's just like the transitionary like props they used. Um I just fucking I don't know. I was astounded, and all the performances, and I don't know. I just loved it. I just loved
I
it.
I want to mention one thing.
Yeah, I have a question for you actually. Okay,
Okay.
go ahead.
Well, the one thing I wanted to mention was besides from that the whole fishing scene,
Yeah.
um, the other standout storyline to me was the newscaster and his wife and his son.
I was gonna say we didn't talk about them, did we?
Yeah, because all the other relationships have a lot of problems with
They seem
intimacy,
pretty healthy. Yep.
infidelity, like their sex lives, that's their problem. But this couple was different because they didn't have that problem. And
Yeah.
yeah, they seem happy,
Well,
right?
they have different problems on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and I think the whole cake
Hmm.
thing was so, I don't know, it was just like so
So
bizarre.
I feel like their marriage was healthy, but other people's problems are affecting, like, since this ensemble is kind of like a collective, like I said, that experiences similar things at a given time. um Other characters' problems get in the way. Like, I would argue that Lily Tomlin is so busy about thinking about Earl and how he's fucking her over, that she's distracted while driving, and that's why,
Yes.
and that like affects other people's problems get, and then the baker has his own problems, and like it's kind of this thing
Yeah.
where it's like they're healthy, but then the city and the other and what the city has done to the other characters affects them. It's this like monopoly effect where everyone ends up getting fucked.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
thought that was so well. There's a lot of drinking in this movie, and there's also a lot of smoking. And I was wondering, because I've heard you complain before about like cigarette usage in movies and how people don't finish their cigarettes. And I just thought that was so interesting because in this movie too, like I noticed they always like put their cigarettes out like after like three puffs. Like they pass it and then they just put it out. Like I only saw someone smoking on like a short stub like
Hmm.
at the end. And I think that was a joint. I don't think that was
Yeah.
just a
I
normal
think it
cigarette.
was a joint.
I The cigarettes really gave this like smoky, like they were all smoking all the time, which I thought was really nice to watch. I just thought it was funny because you've talked about that before. And yeah.
It is a huge film movie Hollywood pet peeve of mine because I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, realistically, if we're gonna be so real here, um, people aren't lighting cigarettes, taking two hits, two puffs, and then
Yeah.
just flicking it. No,
Yeah.
no, that's a waste of money, okay? And people who are active smokers are not gonna be doing that. You don't want to put that,
Yeah.
you don't want to waste that, all right? So,
Yeah.
that annoys me. Did it annoy me in the movie? A little bit. I was a little ticked off, but also, I feel like in this movie it kind of works. And I only say that
Mhm.
because I feel like we've been saying, all these characters are so caught up in their own shit and in their
Yeah.
own heads that they kind of just take everything for advantage almost.
And for
And
granted, yeah.
one of them being obviously smoking and all that and drinking.
Yeah.
So
I feel like it's also this kind of like external kind of movie star attitude they have where they're like they want to present themselves like a character that smokes so many cigarettes, so
yep.
troubled and all that.
Which is why
So I
so
think
many
that's
times
pretty,
throughout the movie I've noticed different characters at multiple different times being like,
yeah.
do you have to do that now? Do you have to smoke now? Do you have to light that now? And it's like,
Oh,
mm,
no, it's kind of this
mm,
external thing just to show
mm,
off in a way. But they
food for
have
thought.
kind of the privilege in a way to smoke cigarettes and not finish them.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting. I think the whole smoking thing, the whole like, and the drinking, so much drinking in
Oh my
this
God.
movie.
Excessive
I
drinking.
mean, so much day drinking, so much beer, so much whiskey, so much vodka and V8. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
It's just once you mix it, that's awful. I hate V8.
Who likes it?
Absolutely no. No one.
Yeah.
I guess that one celloist. Um, it just feels
Cellist.
like cellist. I'm
I'm kidding.
sorry.
I'm kidding.
I didn't know it was. Hey, have you seen Brooklyn Nine-Nine?
Yeah.
Hitchcock from Brooklyn Nine-Nine is in this. He's the guy in the diner where he's like, where Tom Earl at the end is like, you would want a wife like that, wouldn't you? And he's like, I have one. And then it cuts away. That's
Wait,
Hitchcock.
that's him? That's him?
Yeah.
Wait,
He's an
no
extra in
way.
this movie.
Um, no way.
Yeah. It's
Dude,
so great.
Hitchcock was so fucking funny in Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah, he's great. I just thought that was so
Oh,
funny when I saw him. I was like, fuck.
I didn't know
What
that
are
was
you doing
him.
here? Yeah.
Okay, yeah,
Um,
you're right. Yeah.
but yeah, so much day drinking, and these adults are really, really obviously irresponsible, and it leads to the death of their children. Which, by the way, Casey's death was really devastating.
Oh
That
my
whole scene
God.
where that's one of the moments where Altman doesn't let you cut. He doesn't cut away. He
Yeah.
doesn't let you not watch these parents like watch their child die in front of them in the
Mm-hmm.
hospital room. That's devastating. Like
Mm-hmm.
there are problems that we shouldn't care about and problems we should care about, and Altman is very specific about that, and that was very, very sad. But yeah, there's
Yeah.
this whole kind of cynicalness to the movie where it's like we shouldn't really be involved because really they're all vain kind of people
Right.
in a way. Um, and this whole thing of like extra, like Robert Downey Jr. does special effects and he like fakes beating his wife. I thought he was beating her in the beginning, and I was
Me
like, holy
too.
shit. But I didn't see like because he talked about roofing that girl, I didn't feel like it's a I don't know. But this whole thing of like external and like the makeup we put on and like what they're trying to show on the surface versus what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that was my last note, really. Do you
Yeah.
have anything else?
Um, no, basically like the last thing I have is just that that I guess I mean this is just like something I wrote, but I guess a lot of my big takeaway from this movie is just like about dysfunctional relationships,
Yeah.
whether it be romantic or familial, and different ways like of infidelity and how humans at the core are tempted and tested, and it's up to them to either do the right thing or fall to temptation and fail the test. And most of the time,
Yeah.
humans will fail the test because that's the type of creatures that humans are. Humans are extremely flawed, and they're not perfect, and they're gonna make mistakes.
Yeah. I
That's
wrote
just, yeah.
this is what I wrote for Letterboxd. Are you ready?
Oh boy, this is gonna be a big one. I can already feel it. Let's go.
Day drinking, squabbling, cheating, playing music, playing around, fucking, running, driving, fishing, swimming, baking, speaking on the telephone, fucking on the telephone, threatening each other on the telephone, watching the fish in the tank swim, smoking, more drinking, dead bodies in bodies of water, cutting ourselves till we bleed, taking dogs from one another and letting them loose, waiting in the hospital for our son not to die, meeting for dinner, eating, more drinking, painting, painting each other, painting ourselves in makeup, for clowning, perhaps to lie to ourselves, perhaps just for the picture, or for a moving picture, taking our clothes off, on the way watching our son die before our eyes, then putting them back on, watching the city at night, hovering over it like a plane that's spreading toxic liquid on the citizens, destroying each other's property, mending nothing, making jokes, more vodka and V8. Another night singing at the club. How about more fucking? Fucking out of hatred, because of spite, and perhaps because of some deep-rooted idea of love, which once existed in places long ago and far away from this stinking city. Killing ourselves, we threatened each other on the telephone, thinking it's all right because we all have our problems, but we really just killing each other, raping each other, drowning each other. But let's watch off. Let's wash off. Get dressed again, go to a picnic, eat some tropical fruits and barbecue, drive away for a while. Only then can we come back and not face our problems once again. While we're away, though, let's keep cheating, let's keep drinking, let's keep killing the young. Let's get the earth a quaking, and while it's quaking, let's keep drinking, let's keep copping, let's keep singing our songs, let's keep sitting in our warm, nice jacuzzi, Let's keep having our tropical fruits. Prisoners of life. A life in a city, in a country, in a world that just can't stop moving on.
Wow. Holy shit, guys.
Dude, this
If
movie's
that
so
isn't
good.
if that isn't the craziest review I've heard from Yoav, that was insane. Wow.
You like it?
That yeah.
Thank you, thank you.
No, I fucking hate it.
Well, I don't know. This movie's I think Altman's like just a special guy. What'd you think for the first Altman movie?
Um, I am excited to keep watching. That's for
Yeah.
sure. I am really like this.
I like any day, just call me up. Let's put on the long goodbye. I'll watch it on Zoom with you.
Okay. All right. I'm
It's
down.
actually they're actually like this is I think this is my favorite of his. All of his movies have been well we can segue to ratings and review.
You
Because
go
all of his
first.
movies
You're giving it a
have been
5. I know it.
yeah. All of his movies have been 4.5s up to now, and now this one's gonna be a 5 out of 5. So it's a 5 for
Okay.
me. I loved it. I know
Um,
what your rating is.
I think I'm gonna give it a 4.5
Okay.
because, and the reason why is because since I haven't seen his other stuff, you know what I
Okay.
mean? Like
Yeah.
because you're saying like compared to some of the other movies you've seen of his that like this is like, um so I'm like curious to see like what his other stuff is because maybe
Yeah.
watching his other stuff will bump up this one.
Yeah.
Um but honestly,
I'm just thinking about what you said about the humans. Oh, this is unrelated, but how we're like animals deep down, or like that's how the human species is. I think it's interesting that everyone's eating like meat and like making barbecues because like do are we the better species or are we the vain people that Altman is painting us to be?
basically that. I mean there's been that lifelong debate of like are humans like sorry, like are humans any better to be killing and slaughtering um animals and eating them, but then like when an animal kills a human it's like oh no, like they can't do that, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
I don't
It's
know.
interesting what you said. I'll be thinking about that.
Yeah,
I'll be thinking about that. Sorry, what were
but
you saying?
no, I was just gonna say, are you ready to get into the pick?
Yes, 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 yes. I'm very
Okay,
excited.
let's do it.
All right.
Okay.
I'm
Okay,
ready. I'm ready. What is the pick? What is the
so
pick?
first let's start off. This is a movie that neither of us have seen. Okay,
Okay.
so we're doing
Okay.
another one of these. You haven't seen it.
Nice, nice.
I haven't seen it. Um,
Okay. Sorry for my
sorry.
cat.
I'm like looking at the director real quick to see if you've watched any of this director's other stuff. Oh, okay. I want to say I've watched 2 movies from this director. So this
Okay.
will be my third. I believe
Okay.
you have only seen one from this
Okay.
director. So this will be your second.
Okay.
This is a foreign movie.
Oh,
It's
nice.
not in English.
Nice.
Um,
What language is it then?
it's in Korean.
Oh
And
no. Oh, wait.
wait,
Okay.
hold on before you
I
get
have like
well,
two
you
options in my
probably
head.
know what it is, but I chose this movie because we have entered
Please.
June and it's Pride Month. Um, and
Oh, I'm so hyped.
and because, we got to kick it off right. Um, stop. And so
Is it? Am I right?
the movie I've picked is the 2016 movie directed by Park Chan-wook, The
Dude.
Handmaiden. So, you gotta kick off June right by doing a
Dude.
very this is like for a movie that came out in
Let's
2016, like
go.
this movie is very impactful for the
Yeah, this
LGBT
is
plus
considered
community.
like, yeah, and for the film community
Lesbians.
in general, like
Yeah.
the like cinema in general, like impactful.
Yeah. So a little
Wow.
descriptor is
Oh yeah, because yeah, go ahead.
never did they expect to get into a controversial relationship. In 1930s Korea, a swindler and a young woman pose as a Japanese count and a handmaiden to seduce a Japanese heiress and steal her fortune. This has
Ooh,
4.4 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Um,
that's a crazy rating.
and it is two and a
What
half
number is
hours long.
what number is it on the top 250? Well, I deserve a long
Let's
movie after
It is
putting me through
number
this.
50.
Jesus.
So it is up there, guys. So we are
Is
expecting
Shortcuts on the 250?
um I don't know. I don't know. Let me see.
Because it has a high rating, doesn't it? It has a 4.1. No, it's not. I don't think it is.
Shortcuts is not on there.
Well, so The Handmaiden is better than Shortcuts, so we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm kidding. That obviously doesn't mean it's better than Shortcuts.
No.
I'm excited because I like Decision to Leave. It was
Mm-hmm.
good, but like I've heard The Handmaiden and Old Boy are like peak
Yeah.
cinema, so
So
like my expectations are high.
I've watched
Ramona
Old
obviously
Boy.
loves this movie. Yeah,
Yeah, Ramona loves this movie. And then I've also watched Stoker, um,
right.
which
I
to me was
forgot
a
that
little
you watched that.
underwhelming, but aesthetically was really beautiful.
Yeah,
So I'm so excited to see what this movie has to offer. I've been wanting to watch
this
for
is our
so
first
long.
Korean. This is our first Korean movie.
Yeah, because we've done Japanese. We've done two
We've done
Japanese.
French.
We've done French.
We've done a lot. We've done Danish. We've done a lot
Hmm.
of European, but not a lot of Eastern.
No, 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 no.
I'll get
So
us on some Eastern. Okay, sick. Let's go. I'm excited. Oh, we have done a movie from Iran. That was pretty
yeah,
eclectic of us.
that was. I'm very early too.
Yeah, really risky for our careers since this is our only income source. Well, thank you guys. Ogie, shut up. God, I'm feeling like
Guys,
Tim
if you don't
Robbins
know, Ogie
with
is
his
his
dog.
grandma, so put some hate comments because how can he be yelling at his grandma like that?
I'm feeling like Tim Robbins and his dog. Okay.
I'm kidding,
He's
guys.
fucking
Ogie's his
like
cat.
scratching my bed for attention. Stop.
Oh, well,
Stop.
either way, thanks for watching,
Thank you guys for
guys.
watching.
Watch
Yeah.
The Handmaiden. Um, that
Watch
episode is
shortcuts or
gonna
I'll cut
be
you.
oh
This episode's gonna be long. This
it's
episode's gonna be
it's not
longer.
it's not too bad. An hour and like
Okay.
15, I
We've had
think.
longer. We've
Yeah.
had longer. Yeah. All right. Thank you
All
guys
right,
for
guys.
watching. Um, yeah, have a nice week. See you guys
Have a
next
nice
week.
week. We'll see you next weekend. Bye.
Bye.